The real deals are on the air now. And now, live from the Swords of St. Michael Studios, it's The Real Deals. Kenneth and Fair Rose Deel.
It is I and the wife.
Yeah.
I got a little dot on my head here. What is that?
That just means that you are owned. You are
Yes,
Siamese, if you please.
Mm-hmm.
Or you better be Siamese.
Welcome to this June evening. Hey, let's try something real quick since we can now.
Well, I just want to say hi to Michelle and Zulma, Athena, Aaron. Hi, Aaron. Hi, Tony. And Brandon Rage is going to be out there. Boom, 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 boom. Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ken's trying
this might
something
be a
funky.
little tricky. Okay, here it is.
I'm going to get my club. I'm going to get my chub club.
Look at the screen.
Yeah, just get the snake.
Look at the screen. I got it.
Oh,
okay, save it for later.
Yay! I see everybody on the screen.
Yeah.
How exciting. He's just like...
Oh, it's like...
He's too smart for words. Grits had the name for the Native Americans. They were called skinwalkers. Very good. Thank you. I totally spaced the name, Grits. That's a great one. Yes, Grand Rapids. Oh, my gosh, Rick, you have got some of the best stories up there about the Native Americans and how Michigan was, you know, this turtle that rose out of the ocean. It was so cool. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, there's a lot of great stories.
Here we go. You ready?
All right, kids, say your St. Michael prayer.
Father,
Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
St. Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the malice and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him. And we humbly pray, and do thou, Prince of the heavenly host, by the divine powers of God, cast into hell Satan and all the other evil spirits who roams of the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen.
Amen.
Well, Sacred Heart of Jesus, have mercy on us all. And let's see, where is that again? There, it's there. Okay, there we go.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna toilet can this show tonight.
Yeah.
What's wrong with
I
you?
added this new feature, and it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, we got to get faster. We got 45 minutes left. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you know. What do you know about the first colony that disappeared?
The first colony that disappeared. Yeah, we watched that documentary a little bit, and there was this
incredibly
thing
amazing
written on there on the tree.
Yes.
Was there was something supernatural about that besides it, like a disappearance? Or are they trying to say it was a Bermuda Triangle kind of thing?
Worse than a Bermuda Triangle.
It just seems like they just probably kidnapped them and
everything was left. It's like so many of the horrible demonic stories we know. I mean, there was food set up. There's tables of food set up. You know, things were left like, you know, people just walked away. They just disappeared from where they were. There was no trace of anything. They never found any bones. They never found any animals, any dogs, nothing. Now, usually when natives would, you know, host a raid because, you know, there was aggressions between the tribes, or, you know, the settlers might have been shooting at them out of fear, and they're like, no, you're not going to shoot at me. So they'd come and they'd raid and they'd take, you know, provisions, you know, and stuff like that, because that's what they'd do. They'd provision you out. There was nothing like that. There was nothing wandering around. There was no obvious evidence for any reason for them to have simply disappeared. And so that's why, you know, this disappearance of an entire colony leads one to believe that it was not a ghost story, that more than likely it was demonic.
And their boat was there? Whatever brought them there? Or did they skip?
Everything was there. Everything was left.
That is weird.
It made no sense whatsoever. It was very, very freaky.
They wanted to disappear. Maybe they're being persecuted by the place they came from, like they were in the States. I don't know the story, sorry. Let's go over something of last week's topic, and then we'll get back to the legendary...
Oh, because we had a couple of questions? Okay, shoot those last two.
This is related to curses, and I think we didn't hear...
Okay, so we're dialing back, kids. We're going away from Krakatoa, Croton, and we're going back to last week's curse thing.
Hold on, my hand's crooked. Okay, how's that, Iggy? Iggy's our imaginary technical guy, also the makeup guy. There he is, right there. It's Iggy.
Iggy's going to crown you one.
Okay, curses and solutions. We didn't really get into that too much.
That's right. We were going to do the solutions. Okay, I guess we can talk about ghosts at the end. We still have time, so get to solutions.
Is the was that defining a curse being could come from any person, place, or thing. It's when if you come in proximity of it, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that can curse you because it has a spell put on it to curse you. Just being next to something, especially when you come in contact with it, that you can become cursed, as the story goes. What do you do when you're cursed? What are the symptoms? That's probably the first thing. Okay, the first thing is symptoms fair, and throw some in there for us, and then I'll see if I can help fill out the list of the more common ones that we run into all the time with people out there.
Symptoms of curses?
Yeah, curses that might indicate that you should probably do those breaking curses prayers at least.
I think the number one thing that people call us with and say, okay, folks, I can't deal with this. I don't know what's going on. My battery in my car died. Okay, my brakes went out last week. My washing machine stopped working. The guy has canceled twice on fixing it. So besides my washing machine in my car, the air conditioner just went out this morning. So we're all sitting here dying. So you have a bundle of
in the
things.
Same week.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. In a very short space of time. We're not talking about like for the month, like your month just totally tanked because, everything's like falling apart. We're talking about a bunch of things just barreling up. And usually what it is when you understand that you're cursed, you have a withdrawal from people. You don't want to talk to people. You want to just hold it inside you. And that's when people call us and say, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I've been kind of like hermiting, and I don't want to be around people, and I don't want to do the things I usually do because I just feel like I'm just going to be angry at people because I can't tolerate people anymore, and I don't know what's wrong with me, but I just seem to be angry all the time, and it's not me. That's the thing that you got to really look out for, I think, is it's not me. It's not like me.
Mm-hmm. And that's not like me to have bad luck like that. And that's what usually I think of bad luck. Or a series of unfortunate events, as the Lemony Snicket fans out there
Lemony Snickets?
Lemony Snickets.
Lemon pie.
Yeah. It was, it's common for people just to get the average things, like you said, hardships and misfortunes, and where you're noticeable. Relationships, that takes a while to break relationships up. Money matters can come right away through the hardships and misfortunes. Cars breaking down, it costs money.
Yes.
Losing your job, they'll focus on that before they'll ruin your marriage or whatever. But if you let it go long enough, it seems to build up steam, get legs, and get bigger. Especially if what made you vulnerable to begin with is actually in more participation. And in other words, you're breaking more of God's laws, so to speak. You're actually saying, I don't need you, God. I'm going to do what I want, So, having said that, identifying the curses doesn't seem to be as much. People, they're not. Even when they hear us just say that, they go, "Wow, do I have a curse right now?" How about unexplained illnesses, Farrah? How about when people fall into these kind of diagnoses where they might be in a coma, like Lee was in that Honda episode that portrayed a case that we were involved with.
Well, that was at the tail end. I mean, that almost took somebody's life, and that's yes.
And that was where it's actually killing you. They thought his blood was poisoned.
They didn't know what was wrong with him. They were just throwing things out there like,
all the tests came back negative.
Crackers and bread machines. They had no idea.
His kidneys and liver shut down.
They fully expected him if he was going to wake up to be just a vegetable. Like I said, that's the tail end of a curse, kids. That's really, really rare. It doesn't happen that often.
And that was after the guy was already oppressed, so he was still vulnerable. So the ailments, like we talk about fibromyalgia and these other things, that seems to be, it's because they came up with a name for something that people had before 2000.
They even say that, the medication that they give people for fibromyalgia, kids, they say in some people it works, in some people it doesn't. So, okay, do you even know what fibromyalgia is? They say it's an offshoot of nerves, and this affects a lot of people we know, kids. This is really horrible stuff because it's crippling, it's debilitating. I mean, it literally zaps your energy. Is it a curse? I don't know. It could be.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing is that we've talked so many times with different exorcists, with different caseworkers, and there is a common denominator that it's amazing how demons can mask what's really truly going on in your life. And just like they can instill this curse thing going on in your life and get these things to start happening. Like, it's just bizarre. Ken was just, electronic stuff. We were talking about electronic stuff going out, and Ken was laughing because we thought we'd seen it all, done it all with the phone tricks, okay? The phone's calling each other, the phone's turning off, turning on, lighting on, beeping, doing strange things. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a new one. You got to tell what happened. Because, I mean, like I said, we've seen just about everything. Okay, lights flickering. When you're on the phone, crazy stuff happens. So what happened while you were on the phone with the client?
I could even go so far as I challenge anybody to say anything this has happened. A list of
probably cursed, really cursed.
It's easier for spirits to mess with microelectronics. It doesn't take much voltage to run its cell phones. I think they use 2.3 volts in there. And computers no longer use 6 volts for the CPU. And then you go even farther back. I think it'd be higher voltages. But the point is the lower voltage you get, the more it's easy to manipulate with small levels of power. So I'm on the phone with somebody who's clearly oppressed. Yes, how you can tell by phone is another thing. You just have to know what questions to ask. And it's a little bit of a detective work kind of thing, too, as it's outlined in one of the books that we wrote together. Farrah mostly wrote the Haunted Investigations book. Talks about those type of things. So when I'm on the phone with her, all of a sudden I get another call from the same area, different area code, but it still says the same state, different phone number. And then I go, oh, hold on.
Yeah,
let me get that.
Wild.
So I swiped it and switched it over, puts them on hold automatically. I go, hello? She says, it's just me. I thought I switched to the other call. Hold on.
So in other words, while he's on the phone, the same person is calling him from a different line, and she's unaware that her phone has called him a second time.
Yeah, where she's in the middle of a conversation with me, and I had to cut her off.
In the middle of a sentence.
Yeah.
And her phone is calling him a second time. I mean, like I said, this is one for the books, kids. It's bizarre.
And then I kept switching back, and it's the same volume level. It's everything. It's the same. It's like they're rooted together, but... I don't know. Maybe somebody can tell me that's possible. Different phone area codes and all that stuff. And this person they don't have a computer. They don't have a laptop. They don't have a tablet. They had to search for the website on their smartphone. But I thought that was just so strange. And I asked her about that. She says, yeah, that happened a couple times lately. That's never happened before. And I wondered, it's like, okay, if I call that number, the second number, which didn't seem to make a difference. I couldn't even tell the quality was different or anything.
I know. We've already got 3 questions, and I need you to hit these hard, okay?
All right,
Michael has a question. How can we deflect curses? That's a really good one, because all of us can deflect curses.
Deflect them before they come or after?
Deflect them before they come.
St. Benedict metal, all of these things, if you already have it on, because putting on after the fact is obviously as effective as and it builds up a tolerance too. It seems like the longer you wear these shields, the more effective they seem. It doesn't build up exponentially though. It just kind of levels off to some degree. But we noticed this because people hadn't worn them a while, and then they put them back on again. It's like, you already got affected. You're experiencing symptoms of oppression. So if you put it on, it's not going to go, oh no, the metal's back on, we're running out.
Exactly. No, there's things you can do.
Yeah, so deflection is a good word because it acts more like a deflection, because it's just going to be, it's not going to run it off. It's going to actually
not
prevent.
Completely.
Yeah, it's more for prevention. Now the miraculous metal does a little bit of both. I mean, when we're talking about when we had some possession cases, and they're lifting the oval miraculous metal off their V-neck skin, in case it was a woman, and she's holding the chain up like this. And that one comes off at night, and she finds it under the bed. That was
bizarre.
But the St. Benedict metal doesn't. Maybe a particular spirit doesn't have as much as problem with because it's after the fact. She got the St. Benedict metal after she was already having problems with possession. But that's an interesting thing. Nobody talks about it because in the old days, in 2000, when they started trying to, I guess, notice it, like when that Paranormal State TV show, and that was because Lorraine Warren was promoting it. Everybody started getting St. Benedict medals. Well, not everybody, but it started getting more mainstream. But they ignore the fact that when we're working with these cases, we use the miraculous metal, the oval metal, and let's see, do I have one up here? A real big one. Nope. It's big. Well, I don't know. I guess you can just look at the small one. You see that?
Yeah, people can see that.
And then on the other side it has this. It's got to have two sides. Just like the St. Benedict medal. It says something in the front, it says something in the back. But, yeah, deflection, prayers of protection, saying the daily prayer of oppression, against oppression on our website.
That deflects them big time.
You know, some people always say there's like a kind of a symbolic thing with the arm of God, but those things aren't as effective alone.
No.
So all of those kind of protection prayers things that we do is going to block curses directly put at you, or anything you might come in proximity of. Getting on the phone with somebody, trying to help somebody, is enough of a reason to be visited by a shadow thing that doesn't like you, meddling. Anything to add, Miss Farah?
No, like I said, we got two other questions, and these are really good questions, too. The next question, so if you need more information on deflecting curses, please go to our website and look under the Haunted Help tabs, and you'll find Breaking Curses prayers. Those are great. I don't care if you say them for 9 days, which is the minimum you need to do, or just say them every single day of your life. You'll definitely deflect stuff, especially if you know you've got people coming at you.
Yeah, swordsofstmichael.org.
Yeah, swordsofstmichael.org. The next one is, it's really pretty good, Ken. Now, does going through, like, if somebody is just entering into the Catholic faith, does going through the ritual of confirmation, does that protect you from curses automatically?
You mean confirmation in the Catholic Church?
Yes, that's what I said.
No,
it's a good one,
that one infuses the Holy Spirit. It kind of like solidifies your baptism, and that's a spiritual journey, and it does give you more, because we noticed. I probably should wait on that before I say that statistic, but something along the lines of a person who didn't get confirmed.
Yes.
That they're less likely to get easy possessions that are easy to get out, because it takes a lot for those spirits to get inside that person. So I guess in a certain sense, it's going to help.
Yes.
And it'll be weaker. It'll, like we were talking about last week, are curses that are designed to kill a person or to really hurt them. And all it does is just kind of like make people angry at them. You're like, what's up with that? In other words, they'll take that. The person may not even realize it's happening, and they may be laughing and thinking, hey, I'm waiting for it, watching their watch. They'll be sick any moment now. Their hair will fall out like in Charmed, or whatever that movie was, those three witches.
Yes.
But the effect can be that way.
So I think, how you understand confirmation in the faith is that at your baptism, the deposit of faith and grace and the blessing of the Holy Spirit that you receive upon baptism is confirmed. In other words, you are confirmed to go out and preach the gospel. That means that you've attained a level of confidence in your faith that you can go out and preach the gospel. So does that have anything to do with automatically deflecting curses? No, it doesn't. So many Christians alike, they think that nothing's going to touch them, and they think that it doesn't matter what they do, a curse can't affect them. And as we tried to explain on the last show, a curse can only affect you according to the level of your level of religiosity with your relationship with God. All right? If you got a great, strong relationship, you really don't have to worry about it. If you got a little bitty relationship, you might want to scratch your head and go, maybe I can add a couple prayers here or there.
Yeah, you have to directly address with them a little bit, but you
really,
won't notice
really
them as much.
do.
And then you look back, and then it's like, wow, I guess. You find out from some people saying, hey, that witch that worked at blah, 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 yeah, she said she put a curse on you. And then you're thinking like, but come to think of it, around that time, nah. If you can think of something clearly, then it's been working. But a lot of people consider everything natural anyway, like they go to doctors. But yeah, confirmation, it helps, because it's kind of like what do you call it? It's kind of like you're finalizing your vows as a Catholic or Christian,
Oh, yes.
It's like you reach the age of reason, you go through the grades, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. By the time you're in 8th grade, you confirm your baptism, which should have been done when you're younger, before the age of reason. So yeah, that's just a walk of the faith, and all of those walks of the faith, as long as you're staying faithful and you're not breaking every one of God's commandments, because those will just offset it totally, won't they?
Well, and not only that, you can confirm your faith if you are going to continue to act the opposite of what your faith dictates, you are not going to have any protection and grace whatsoever, kids. It's just all there is to it. So don't go robbing any banks after you get confirmed. Please. Okay, next question.
Okay,
right.
what is the next question?
Next question here is, can you... very good question. This one's rather in-depth. I'd like to answer this one from a religious perspective and a demonologist perspective. Can you be cursed and receive the sacraments, okay? So I'd like you to, explain to people, what is a sacrament, because I think in order to understand what the sacred is and the reception of it and how you're supposed to receive it, that will explain how the line of the curse can cross that reception of the sacrament. I think that's like a big area people don't really understand. Okay, Ken?
All right.
So can you be cursed and still receive the sacraments, Ken? We just had that case not too long ago. He was receiving the sacraments.
Can you be cursed and still receive?
And still receive the sacraments.
Well, yeah, I mean, unless, it doesn't matter what they do to you. If you don't cross that line and become in mortal sin in the Catholic Church anyway, you can still receive all of the sacraments. In fact, you need them more than ever, especially the ones of communion, confession, go once a week. And, to keep your small things done. I had an argument with somebody, you lost your temper, do all of that stuff to stay closer knit. You can back off in that a little bit, maybe make it once a month or 2 months. Don't do it every year, though. And everyday Mass, and, of course, Blessed Sacrament. And step up your prayers, make sure you do your daily rosary, that kind of thing, from the Catholic side of things. And definitely don't shy away from the idea of addressing it directly, like we said about saying prayers directly to send it away, because Father Chad Rippinger, the exorcist, said in one of his videos, he said it's a daily grind to just say the rosary, for example, and do your regular things in Mass
really
without addressing the Spirit directly, addressing the problem directly, like the breaking curses prayers do. That'll just go a slower grind, because you're asking, you shall receive. A lot of things we have to ask for. Do I expect to get that great job just because I'm living a good Christian life?
Exactly.
That's why we ask specifics. That's why we do rosary novenas and so forth. It applies to here, too, doesn't it?
Big time. I think, kids, if you understand that, religion is not a token machine, it's not a gumball machine. You don't put a prayer in, get some grace out, and go, I'm good for at least a week, a month, a year. I'm fine because, I did my little prayer like I was supposed to. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, you do have a guardian angel that's following you around, trying to trip you up and say, no, don't choose that, choose this, and trying to watch over you. You also have God that loves you very much and wants you to look at him instead of the 5 yachts, trips to Belize, 7-carat diamond ring, and everything else you're thinking, wow, wouldn't that just complete my collection? So when you think about your faith life and your religious life, and oh wow, well, if I'm good and I'm getting the sacraments, I can't be cursed wrong. When I think the hardest thing for people to understand, especially when we're dealing with demonic cases, is that sometimes God allows really awful stuff to happen to shake us out of a level of apathy and mendacity that we just kind of like cruise right along in. Because there's not a lot of people pursuing excellence these days. Everybody's like, okay, I just want to be happy. I just want to make enough money to be okay. I just want to pray enough so I'm like happy. I just want to have enough health insurance so I'm not sick. Whereas God calls us to a lot more than that.
Sometimes some of us more than others, and that's a wake-up call too.
So, if you find yourself in the middle of a wretched distress, never forget he's always right there waiting to help you. So, that's it for those questions. It was one more question, but I don't know that I wrote it down.
Maybe you can think of it during our little mini commercial break.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Ken's got to take a mini commercial break. Not that I need the cheese, but don't go anywhere, please. We'll be right back. Oh, wow. Just bumped me right out.
How dare it?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are the real Deals. watching our little prime time. Thanks for hanging out with us. We are doing our best to bring you the factoids, the fun, and the fabulous frivolities of the paranormal and the real not so normal. So sit back, kick back, enjoy your little 7-Up, kids, and have a snack. Okay, Ken, you're off to the races.
You wanted a ghost. Okay. By the way,
Yeah, the
you
ghost
can
stories.
keep adding the questions about the other topics. We're just kind of making an Ask a Demonologist thing. But, back in the old days, I used to just be called a ghost expert and gave some advice on game development and everything, about how to make the game more scary and TV shows or something like that.
Yeah, and you know what? Steve reminded me we had one more question about generational curses before we go into
do you remember what it was?
ghosties. No,
okay.
he reminded me. Thank you,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.
Our favorite monkey man.
Okay, what is it?
Well, he wanted to know specifically if you could address the question about, is there such a thing about family or generational curses?
Yeah, this one's got a little deeper because
This has got a
the
few
label
layers.
of generational curses confuse people.
It does, and it's a term thrown out there, and it's mostly thrown out there by some of the newer groups out there, such as the Charismatics of the '60s, and some of the other Christian liberal organizations that think that they can lump smoking and sex addiction and porn and all kinds of strange things. Oh yeah, you're generationally cursed, and it just goes into one big old lump label like that, kids.
Yeah, it's I think it's two parts too. It's okay, you have a mother and father who were both very much alcoholics in a worse way, but you got baptized, which is supposed to nullify original sin, which means the sins of your parents. It means you don't have the sin on your soul, but you kind of have a weakness for it. What's wrong?
We better not have gotten kicked out. Okay, there we are again. Good.
Oh.
Go.
Oh, I don't see us. I don't see any problem.
All right.
Then we get. I hate when you do that. So I lose my train of thought.
I'm
Go ahead.
so
Give her a
sorry.
long distance doink on the head.
Oh, I'm so sorry. But we're getting lots of hearts. So you're on the right path. Okay, so you were talking about generational curses, and you were saying how sometimes you have two parents, a father and a mother, that are bloody alcoholics, and sucking it down every night.
According to the church, and in the 2,000 year plus in the Catechism, current and past, that it's supposed to. Baptism is supposed to remit venial sin. You become a member of the family, of the Holy Family, no longer Adam and Eve who dropped the ball big time. But it doesn't get rid of the weakness of the alcoholism. That takes a few generations to go away. And guess how it goes away? It goes away from free will. You just have to say no. We said this before. You say no, and then your kids are not going to be so perpetual prone to...
And you
whatever
need
good
to
word is to alcoholism. In
what
that
you
case.
mean by weakness, because I don't think a lot of people understand what weakness truly means.
It's like you have your spiritual weakness. You know how they always have these stereotypes for Irish and stuff.
Explain it like kryptonite.
We get into fights
It's kryptonite, baby.
We like drinking and all that.
Because you were my kryptonite.
I mean, if that was true, and I don't say if it's not, but that would be that generation might have that. It might be a generational curse upon that nationality or race. Father Chad Rippinger talks about countries and states just from the past
Irish.
sins
Oh my
that have
gosh,
been
the
committed.
Irish love their whiskey. I can tell you that.
So we said we don't know if it means generational curse as much as it means generational effect. That's why I say you got to watch out for the words. They can be confusing.
Very, very confusing.
So you can be affected by the fact that your mother and father were practicing witchcraft and they never renounced it.
That's
and,
a bit
you got
different than
baptized
alcoholism.
by your aunt who ended up with
That's
custody.
way different.
And then you're going to find that you're being visited by your mother and father's spirits, even though they're still alive. I mean, not their spirits, they hang with them. They're familiars.
And Steve, as
like
you were asking about generational curses, when you have the families in Michigan up there, Cheryl, up in the middle of the state, that when you talk about, this is not a generational curse, when you talk about a generational, contractual, repeated satanic worship, satanic sexual activity, satanic children born to people, that is not a generational curse. That is a generational pact with evil, okay? Totally different. Those people have been consecrated to evil, to satanic acts. That is not a generational curse.
Good
That is
point.
completely different. And it's come up in a number of different situations where people will think, oh, maybe I'm cursed. Oh, maybe, I went to a haunted thing, or I've never understood why I've been fascinated with this. And then as we peel the layers back, we find out, the levels of abuse and use and forgotten things that these people have gone through. And, you have to start attacking the little molehills, one molehill at a time, before you get all the moles out of the yard. And you can finally start to get the yard going green again. That's, there's no easy way to explain it. You just can't all of a sudden just put some true green on the lawn and all of a sudden it's all gone. It doesn't work that way, kids. I wish it did. But it can because, Christ can do anything he wants.
Yeah.
And if that's going to be the easiest way to get you coming right back for more and saying your prayers and loving him, it'll happen. We haven't seen any cases that have happened that quick, though.
Well,
and that is not a generational curse.
Cheryl Phillips said generational trauma. So, I
Yes.
think maybe a better term, Farrah, maybe generational spirits, because we were using a mainstream, even Father Chad is, when he calls it generational curses. That's a mainstream term.
It is.
Because it's not exacting, and he's pretty an exacting guy, he's a PhD and everything. But generational spirits may be what it more is. Their attachments go, and they confess their sins, but those attachments are vulnerable, make them more prone and vulnerable to the things that their parents said yes to. They're going to find it more difficult to say no. Does that kind of fit in there?
I think that pretty much sums it up, because I like that idea of generational trauma, Cheryl, because what these generational spirits do is they incite us to sin. All right, so you have a propensity, let's say, like Ken was talking about the alcoholics example. You may not touch heroin, but boy, you smell a nice Irish whiskey and you're like a dog on a bone. And you're like, oh yeah, hand me two. Because you have that generational propensity, that spirit saying, oh yeah, I just knock a couple back, and before you know, you've drank 3 bottles. And you're like, wow, how'd that happen? And then you're rotten out of it for 3 days. And it's totally generational. Whereas, you're not going to want to do heroin, you're not going to want to do anything because you have no attraction to it. There is no spirit saying, hey, come on and try this.
Yeah.
So we need to get on to our next question because we're almost at the top of the hour. We had a really good question from chat. Thank you so much for the compliment, Christine. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you can, share our page. Friend us on Facebook if you like, too. Oh, Steve, you and your monkey grease, monkey shine poop. Oh, yeah. Father Mike Driscoll. Hey, Father Mike. Oh, thanks for the caution on the generational spirits. Yeah, we have to warn people that we have to be very, very, very careful. And we have to look at the fact that we know what the nature was of the environment we were raised in. That's what we are going to be prone to. Because our parents are only going to act in the manner that they were raised with. And whatever propensities and temptations they have to pornography, to alcoholism, to adultery, to Satanism, to witchcraft, whatever they have, you're going to get too. So we can't call that a generational curse. We have to call that a generational invitation to spiritual oppression. So, yeah, thank you so much, Father Mike, for that thumbs up on that. We have a really good question from chat I want to address, because a lot of people, we have a tendency to confuse and mesh different faith practices. Most of them are pagan, and they are so soft, I say, because they're not firmly rooted in that, oh, this is a bad practice, So people think it's very easy to blend it with another religion or a universal tradition of Christianity. So one of our new gals asked, what is karma? Do you want to take a crack at that, babe, or do you want me to go off on my Eastern
we
stuff?
always remember that karma is being used in the mainstream. We'll use that again as a what comes around goes around, right? Pretty much it's like something comes back on you like a fate. Is that pretty much the way you've heard it used? And we find that it's the natural law of God. And it's really for our own good. Once we leave our parents, who's going to keep us in check if you're hiding from the cops? Sometimes that's what you need. You need to smack down and showing that you do something wrong to a person and you don't notice that it's having any underlying negative effect. You're going to keep doing it. You're going to find out it's very handy to do that. And because it's easier to do that and at the expense of other people. I guess that's one way to put it. Is that pretty much kind of the personification? Is like what comes around goes around? Like
that is okay. Let's go to the definition of karma. Now, I am not Eastern guru, but I have studied a good deal of the belief systems. And karma is an Eastern philosophy. It's part of an Eastern philosophy of,
Hindu,
is your life path of nothingness, because that's the goal of your mind in this Eastern philosophy, is nothingness, so that you can let all that is into your nothingness and be one with the nothingness. Is this your dharma or your karma? Karma is the concept that if you act like an ant, you will reincarnate as an ant. It is one of those checks and balances that karma is what happens to you as a direct result, and takes nothing else into account. That being said, it does not line up with what Christianity believes. Karma cannot exist in Christianity. It's not possible. And so if you try to say, well, it's karma, the guy's a jerk, so somebody, ran over his kid. God doesn't act that way.
Yeah.
God does not act that way.
That's not what he means by vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So, if your coworker, you see them underhanding and undercutting and gossiping about everybody in the office, and all of a sudden they get fired. Oh, yeah, well, that's his karma. He deserved it. No, that's not true.
Yeah,
and as Christians, you really let me just tell you this, okay? Just from our personal demonologist perspective here, you don't want to go around saying that either. Oh, that's his karma. He deserved it. Because what you put out there, that's a curse, you guys. That's a curse.
Yeah.
Oh, he deserved it. Because then you stand in the judgment seat of that person's soul and intention, and only God knows the intention of a heart. So we have to really think that, when we speak things ourselves, we're doing one of two things. We're either building somebody up, or we're tearing their soul and sending it to hell. Trust me, you do not want to go before Jesus and the angels and say, oh yeah, I threw them there, because that's not going to be a good thing. We have to think about the next life and the next world, kids. And karma, if you are a Christian, has no place in your vocabulary, nor does it have any place for you to enjoy or take delight in anybody else's demise, no matter how bad you may think they are, no matter how awful you may know they are, no matter what their actions have shown you, how terrible and disgusting and awful. We can't take delight in somebody else's pain or judgment.
Yeah, and you have to practice that.
It's really, really hard, especially when it comes to your own children.
Seeing someone get there,
or your own family.
You're not supposed to take delight in that.
No.
And so that's a good thing to practice in general for a more peaceful life.
Yeah, Doris, I froze too.
Seeks all of those things, and that's just it's a great tip.
Yeah, and that's what we're hoping to share with you, Steve. I'm going to run over your dogma with my cupcake, you instigator. We have to remember that our words carry a great deal of power. If God spoke the universe into existence, and he created us in his image, what are you speaking into existence in your life right now? What are you speaking into the lives of those you love? Or how about the ones that you don't like? We have to be careful. Our words carry curse and blessing.
Amen.
Yes, and I can get off my horse now. Hi, Brenda. Yeah, we kind of froze up there. The whole screen froze up. Thanks so much for joining us. This is Ken and Farrah Real Deal. Subscribe, like, and share this page if you can. Find us on YouTube at The Real Deals. And we have a weekly show.
With all E's.
Yes, REEL, like real, Deel, DEEL. And join us every Thursday night. Thank you for joining us tonight. We've had a great deal of fun talking. We wanted to talk about ghosts, and we started talking about Roanoke Island.
Oh, yeah, anything that'll come up. Yeah, Roanoke, that's what I love about the documentaries, is that some people take this stuff apart and they give just about every angle. The only problem is, and this is the way me and the wife investigate, is we don't have an investigation sheet. We get our intake, we get our initial things to say if it's for the diocese or something. And beyond that, we let one question lead to another to get at the truth, and then we can get at the truth really quick. If I just did the standard battery of questions, which is okay if you're just the intake person, but when you're the investigator, you're going to miss a lot, because one question should prompt another. If I was
Always.
there talking to the people back then, Farrah, I think that me and you would thinking Sherlock Holmes or whatever you may call it. What would we come up with? What can we ask that we get
no.
answers?
No, I'm the guy in the trench coat. Oh, and just one more thing. I miss Columbo.
Yeah, he'd always
He
turn
was so
around and
obnoxious, with that eye, going.
you can almost feel
He
the
had that
guy.
eye thing going on. He was funny.
The guy, whoever
But-
is like being asked about murder, you can almost feel what he's feeling. It's like,
But
oh,
we
thank God
have
he's
to
leaving,
do
and he
the
turns around. Oh,
same
one
thing.
more thing.
When we're trying to help somebody, is it a curse? Is it mental? Hey, we're all mental. We just all have degrees of it, okay? So how mental are they, and how much are they really suffering from, the mental overload of being oppressed? So, you have to sit there and you have to play good cop, bad cop. Okay, did you do this? Did you take your medicine? Did you eat your food? Did you go to sleep? Are you doing all these things? And it's like, it's like one thing after another. That's everything in life can really, really be equated to what we're willing to put in it. Except for the the ghost stories that we were talking about earlier. You can't take responsibility for ghost stories. Those are unexplainable.
And it's good to throw in some good ghost stories, which are in there. I mean, even the one with Padre Pio we tell,
Yes.
or a saint that had an experience where they encounter a soul. It used to be a nun in her convent or whatever.
Yes.
And then all they have to do is do a couple of masses, and they'll be free from purgatory or something like that. That's a good story ending. It's like, hey, I'm glad I got a hold of you. Can you send a cab to my location? I'm out of money. I've been robbed, but I'm okay. Oh, okay. I'll send a cab over there and send you I'll wire some money down. I mean, everybody loves a good story, period, when it is a good one. But there's the morbid curiosity, Farrah, who likes to read about serial killers.
I don't like to read about serial killers. Okay.
You like to watch them in documentaries.
Let's not get me started on my serial killers. Okay.
No, she was the unwilling victim of a serial killer by trusting a person who was originally a friend. That's a weird story. You don't tell that one very often.
No,
do you?
I don't. We don't have time to go into it now.
Oh, sure.
But,
You're going to tease everybody with that one.
I don't think so. We're
You know,
talking
the funny,
about
that
ghosts
mental stuff
because
is important in this thing. And you remember Farrah was telling, and it was like, we got some people really getting, and this was before we did the Real Deal's TV show in the fashion that we're doing it now.
when ghosts
we were going over schizophrenia, and I think people were expecting us to give a fully science clinical. Remember,
yes.
schizophrenia and all of this stuff come from a science silence.
Yeah,
movie.
science is there is no
Pseudoscience.
psychology. This is not a science. This is a let's
They
push a
consider it
button
liberal
and see
arts,
if it works.
Except neurology. And
yes,
we
neurology is different.
got kind of hammered. We're having a roundtable discussion about it, and we were giving it entirely from the perspective of people we ran into who were being diagnosed for possession or oppression, and trying to see, hey, are they paranoid schizophrenic or something? I don't know how useful or really people thought that it would be for us to hash it out, the ideas.
Yeah.
I think it's one of these areas that is dangerously wide open, that it can go in either direction, dangerously for the person, for the field of work that we do in this ministry and everything, because you'll see it vary so much. I'm very concerned about it, and I apologize that I got a little sloppy when we had our roundtable show. Was it back in December? I forgot the last one we did. That a lot of people were saying, I learned absolutely nothing. Well, I'm not aware of that you attended possessions and you were able to test to see if it was mental or spiritual. When I narrow it down, it's not spiritual, I start to suspect mental, right, Farrah?
Yep.
Oh, that reminds me, Farrah, I got to learn Latin because remember we were talking about on one of the shows about how you can test the spirit. You're going foggy.
I know I went froggy.
Yeah,
I need to blow some bubbles.
when you can
something.
test the spirit that speaking in Latin in the middle of a conversation, and then you get a response, and they don't know any form of Latin. Make sure they don't. That it's a good test because it's an easy, discreet test that you can actually do over the phone. I know some people will say under their breath a prayer, but it's very effective. But the problem is I don't know as much Latin, but I'm going to have to learn some key phrases to do that one. I was just thinking about that today when I was in conversation with someone in Texas, because you never know. You never know. Okay,
Totally.
well, back to the topic. So, yeah, some of the great ghost stories or whatever. Let's see. Do we have anything coming out of the chat that somebody would like?
Not right now. And, I'd really like to do some more ghost stories. So we're going to have to do more ghost stories later, okay, you guys? Because we didn't really get to talk about ghost stories tonight because we had to do the whole curses thing.
I don't know which one you're talking about in St. Louis. I'll probably not find out until you get off the air.
Yeah, it was a St. Louis one. But it's okay. We can talk about more ghost stories.
It was a case I worked on, the one with the box of ashes, or
I think
hotel?
I think it was.
Okay. Let me, anyway, you remember when the story of the Bell Witch, and they called it they were trying to create that Blair Witch concoction story.
Oh, everybody was like into the witches in the woods and the warlocks and the beatings and the bells and the dinging and the donging in the woods. It's like, come on,
One
people.
of the credits to Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who kind of a variety of faith. I don't know what she clings to, but she's very much a documentation person.
Totally.
She put down 4 or 5 versions of Bell Witch, which what she came up with, which is very good.
Yes.
Chronicling and researching. I don't really care about her religious affiliation, where she's comfortable and stands, because she doesn't spin it. She doesn't put her own spin on the stuff. She just reports it as she see it. She's a great reporter. She'd be a great news anchor. And this one in the Bell Witch is interesting because you remember that movie that they had, and they turned it out. It's like the guy who was played by Donald Sutherland was some sort of like.
Oh yes, Donald Sutherland. He's wild.
And then she was like manifesting all of these things with PK energy because she was molested, and it's her inner anger.
That was just really, really weird.
And it ruined it probably for all the people who are fans of good ghost horror stories or something too, especially on an old case. So, we didn't. Did we see that one? I don't know if we didn't go to see the movies on that one, did we? It would have been disappointed paying for that.
Yes.
But that one's a classic case, and there's 4 versions of it. But it does seem to have to be centered around the Bell Witch as somebody who cursed, and there's legends of the past where witches came to villages and demanded that they get their free food or whatever. Or she'll do this. Your cow milk will dry up, and she feeds them milkweed in the middle of the night. And then they come back, oh, no, it's the curse has come true. Quick, give the witch some money. She's at the cottage in the woods. And then they find out that she's been feeding them milkweed, and they go burn her cottage down. That's so much for a ghost story. But witches don't have a good history, I'll put it that way. Okay. This was a funny story. I worked with some people in one of these old teams back in 2007 or something, and this one was one where the person was said that the ex-husbands had passed away. She got remarried, and I think the oldest son, and who she always liked, was kind of getting on. It was the father. I hate to mess this detail up, so I'm going to try to give a Reader's Digest. So there was like a manifestation where it almost felt like the guy got shoved, the new husband and all that stuff, and got hit with a frying pan kind of feeling, like smack. And it was particularly more stronger in the other room. So as the investigation proceeds, guess what they had in that room? On the shelf in a shoebox was
what's up?
Was his ashes.
Oh no!
Right there in the house. And so the ashes got removed, and I gave instructions on how to, take it and get a proper burial or whatever through a pastor as non-Catholic case, and it wasn't through the diocese, for example. And it ended, and it just kind of did a basic cleansing on the place. With a manifestation like that, disembodied human hand shoving, not just shadows, and you get clanged. You would think that something simple like that wouldn't even be the case.
No,
And it was a guy's ashes, too. It wasn't even like, I got a demonic spirit to it. But I guess the good story is they got rid of him by getting the ashes. We were watching
and that's
something.
A warning. Do not keep ashes in your home. They are not intended to stay in your home.
Some weird thing
ashes.
happened in the Catholic Church that we were watching a documentary about. This one pope, they actually dug him up, put him in his papal seat, or put him in the chair at court, and started bringing up all these charges. That's another story in itself.
Completely.
It's an interesting point of Catholic history. But at some point or another, after all of this stuff, and the body got washed, they're not really sure how it came out and ended up in the river when it flooded. And this pope appeared as a ghost to a monk and asked him to bury him. So whenever bodies are separate and they're not buried, it does cause the old kind of legend, or some people considered some sort of folklore, that the body could be disturbed or disrupted, where the spirit is going to be haunting a place because don't have a proper burial, like Kolchak, the Night Stalker, the headless biker who kept showing up or something, or Screaming Skull, was that? Yeah, I think that's probably kind of a Screaming Skull. The original case where the skull is chattering, inside. You can see it vibrating. And that's what they said at this old English castle. And that's a true story, but the movie, some cheesy movie came out, which is on Amazon right now, at Prime. So, Bezo, you owe me one. And so when they buried the head with the body, it all stopped. So, the desecration of the grave, which is where you're purposely separating it, and when the head is missing from the body, it does seem to bring it up, and it ends it. So this ashes one kind of fits with that.
Yes.
I don't know if that's exactly what you're looking for, but it's a fascinating topic for some people,
there's nothing like a good fishy ghost story.
And it's funny, the movies they come up with, like I said, here's an example, Screaming Skull. It's based on that story, but it has nothing to do with it.
Okay, Christine has a good question. So why can we not have the remains of the deceased people in our home? Good question, Christine. I think a lot of people don't understand the potential for, shall we say, invitation by keeping the remains of a deceased loved one or a deceased person of your family in the home. Ken, hit it.
Wow, you know what? And one of the things you're going to find out when you research, what people consider the ghost phenomenon or ghostology, is that there's many cases. And then we'll go back to Rosemary Ellen Collins' Encyclopedia of Ghosts and Spirits again. A lot of stories just in there about when those things happen. Ashes being separated, body parts being kept, or stealing something from their grave that was buried with them, which is a different thing in itself. But the spirit actually tells them to properly bury them. Why do they do that? But if one tells you under similar circumstances, it means that you probably should consider the same thing. So we ran into that a few times in our lifetime, and we get called in now more with the more severe cases.
Yes.
Only
the severe cases. People don't give us the fun cases that we can laugh at anymore.
I know. I told somebody, I said, I didn't get into this for possessions because they take longer.
Yeah, you scream and scream and scream the last 5 years. That's all well, never mind.
That's all we do is oppressive possessions now.
The point is, Jennifer Evans, I want to tell you, please don't worry. I mean, obviously, if you want to keep a loved one for a specific period of time, and the priest knows, your pastor knows, the intention is to have them buried together, there's actually specific places in churches that will hold your loved one's remains, or there are funeral homes that will hold them for a specific period of time so people can be buried together. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever on a temporary basis. But as Athena was saying in chat, it's important for a proper blessing to be done over the remains. This is very important for the deceased.
You got to have a proper kind of funeral and that sort of thing. And so I don't know. It's like,
and let's say you've had the funeral and you take the ashes home, and it's like, we're just going to set Grandpa up here on the fireplace, and every Christmas we're going to salute Grandpa and knock it back.
Without
not good.
The further, not complicated,
good.
But not giving an exact answer. The story about the Pope. He was in a tomb, which was just this concrete box sitting above the ground. It's not in the earth, but there's something, it's like a proper burial, because if he was put in that tomb, he probably had a proper burial where there was consecrated the area, he was in consecrated ground or something like that. So it's not necessarily you got to be under dirt. So I think, what you're saying there, Farrah, exactly is what it is a proper burial and
a proper blessing.
Yeah, proper
prayers
blessing.
For the dead. This is why there are prayers for the dead. There is a respect, a certain level of respect and a consecration of the dead back home to where they came from, God. And there's a reason that churches, most churches have consecrated burial ground that is specifically set aside for the dead.
You know, superstition really got kind of crazy, like we said with
Very
the
much
vampire
so.
war, about pinning them to the grave, and what would they say if the spirit asking for prayers, but they didn't exactly get it out, because you don't usually hear a purgatory ghost speak. You just assume they need your prayers back in the old days, up till the 1500s, when people became confused because
And it's easy
the
to...
counter, we'll just say Protestant thing, ghosts don't exist, it must be a demon, you know, that kind of thing. So
Well,
they
so much
assumed
more
every
than
ghost
that.
was a human spirit and needed your prayers. When you saw a ghost that looked like a person you knew or whatever, or somebody died in the village, they would go right to masses right away, which is good either way. But yeah, that one's kind of confusing a little bit, though. But yeah, I think that kind of, you know, without hearing from a theologian who would give it more detail, I think that one's a good one. Good question. It didn't come up in the ghost shows that we did.
No, it didn't. And Jennifer was saying that, you know, the priest gave her aunt the permission to keep her uncle there so that they could be buried together. That would have been different, because I guarantee you
That's right.
priest would have allowed to take those ashes home without proper prayers said over that urn, wherever she kept that urn. And she probably had her house blessed on a regular basis, too, until she was able to be buried with her husband.
Depends on
So
what the
that's a
person's like,
different...
yeah.
That's a different circumstances. She's not just taking the ashes home because she's like, well, you know, I don't want to get them buried. I can't afford it. I think I'm just going to keep them with me. No, that was done with the full knowledge of a religious superior, and that's what's important.
Yeah,
That
the
they were
variable.
prayed. Yes, they were prayed over. So
And people
don't
have
worry
done
about
that
it, Jennifer.
were-
That's
you didn't have an experience by now
No.
that where it said I need to be properly buried, because it's not in, you know, obviously in a casket or whatever
can
that's above
happen.
ground isn't like buried per se. That's not what they asked for. If they
No.
ask for prayers, then you can give them to them. I mean, you'd be more likely to have an experience if they were in need of such things when they're actually in the house, where they tell you in a dream or something. But yeah, that's it. That's not, of course, that's not all that common either.
Time's up.
It is.
Time to remind us, kids and you kids, that, hey, the battle's already been won. And we're here to help you fight the fight and win it right, guys. So we're doing what we can. We love the questions. Keep them coming. Like and share if you can. Follow us on YouTube, The Real Deals. And guess what? See us next week. Same time, same place. Thursday night, The Real Deals. Crank your reel. Crank a deal.
God bless. Thank
God
you
bless.
very
Have a great night. Thank you for joining us. Don't let the bed bugs bite.
much. Went really fast.
I know. Night all.
God bless. Good night. God bless. Good night. The Real Deals TV show, copyright 2018, a Swords of St. Michael production. Any unauthorized duplication or rebroadcast or retransmission of this broadcast without the express written permission of the Swords of the Saint Network or that of Kenneth and Barrow's Deel is strictly prohibited.